What did Trump just say about TikTok? Is it sticking around? We got a lot to cover in this week's Day Trading Attention, just talking about everything that's important in social media, digital media, that's going to really drive your business results, may impact your strategies as a creator, an entrepreneur, or a bigger brand. So I'm just going to jump right into what did Trump say at a big interview this week. He was talking all about sort of the priorities of his administration, and a reporter asked, is he going to save TikTok? And what Trump said is he's going to take a look at it, right? He said he's got a warm spot in his heart for TikTok because he thinks it helped him capture the youth vote. If you weren't paying attention to the political strategy, and I'll jump into it, not only did he go on the right podcast that own the culture right now, but those clips and a lot of people in his administration or on the Republican side, like a Charlie Kirk, were doing crazy things at college campuses, getting super viral, and really, I think, turning a lot of the youth culture, making Republican feel cool again to the younger kids. So I'm saying that tactically as a point of view of understanding the landscape. This is all I do. I've been talking about this for 4 years at podcasts. We're going to change the business. But back on TikTok, I think he understands the impact it has. It's 170 million people on it in America. It's a huge side income for a lot of people. It could be full-time income. TikTok Shop is growing like crazy. I think there's a stat right now that said 50% of Gen Z has purchased on TikTok Shop, right? So it's important to business. It's a really big app. So he said he's going to take a look at it. I do think on January 19th there'll be an extension, and I think he'll ultimately buy them more time, but I think they're going to still have to deleverage from China, and I think that is the tit for tat, right? No Meta, no Google, no ChatGPT in China. What is the rationale? Zuckerberg, all the big players want TikTok to slow down, but I think if it gets bought by an American company, it is what it is. I think Trump likes the competition because of what happened with him being banned and all that stuff. Let's keep it more fair game. So I think that's what's going to happen. Anyways, still developing, getting closer to the January 19th date. There's a really cool feature. This is a bigger tactical thing for all your strategies. TikTok is launching Editor. And Editor is a lot like CapCut being integrated into the point of uploading or creating your videos. You can go to editor mode and add custom captions, right? Have it edit your video for you, adding clips, making the video for you. There's all sorts of AI apps like Submagic, CapCut, I'm just keeping it easy, where they're already doing that things. So instead of going to a third party and making your videos, you can make it within TikTok. But Meta is increasing versions of this, especially in their campaign builder, and YouTube is rolling this out. We just sat in a YouTube demonstration where you can upload a long form video. It can clip it for you, all that good stuff, and make ads. I think you're going to see more and more in this as they, the platforms want you to stay on there. They want to make it easier and easier for creators to make good content and make it more competitive. So I think it's a really interesting breakthrough and just a slight development. TikTok's always the real thing that made TikTok powerful, besides them discovering watch time is the game and the algorithm, right? The For You page aspect of that followers don't matter. It's about good content. Is that they made it easier for everyday people to create really good content. And that is like what Reels and all the other channels are catching up and adopting, right? Reels has done a really good job of it. So that's gonna be really important. If TikTok staying on it does get banned, you need to have a strategy, and you need to be doing it. You should be implementing it now. I definitely have made more videos. If you want to watch on my channel, I think I've been talking about it for a year. If Instagram gets banned, what should you do? So right now you should be posting on TikTok, moving people to, and your link in bios on TikTok should be moving people to email or to other channels. You should be posting about it to your fans. Hey, if you feel like what we do, make sure you follow us here. You can be remarketing anyone who's like engaged with your page, right? Something you do on all channels. Watch your videos, send them an ad, drive them to different channels, or get them to your email list so you can promote them and move them somewhere else. Own that attention versus, any app can get shut down, right? I do think the big players in the space are going to be Instagram Reels, right? Facebook Reels are still undervalued for a lot of people. YouTube Shorts has the most upside. I do think YouTube of all the players is the most. We're going to talk about a couple stories here today. YouTube is the most set up for long-term success because it's looked at less as social and more as distribution for video content, but it's still the best for monetizing. Shorts is probably the most undervalued place. There's the SEO value, there's the search value, there's the tying into Gemini value of YouTube Shorts. If you're not there, regardless of TikTok going away, you should be on YouTube Shorts, right? X is now a video player. I think people underrate X as a channel. I think it just crossed something like 8 billion views. Elon's touting it. I think it's a lot of misinformation about the platform dying. I think people are spending more and more time because it's really the cultural world water cooler conversation. I don't think Threads or Blue Sky are going to chip away at it. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but they're going to take the parts that really are more extreme left or extreme right. I think the people that understand the value of Twitter are going to stick around, and you're seeing advertisers slowly come back. I do think it's disingenuous to not market or spend ads on Twitter because of the content, but then spend ads on TikTok because of the content, or it's owned by China. I think it's disingenuous. I think it's contradictory. In my personal opinion, I do think, regardless of how you view the channel, whether you agree with the right or left, I think it's a valuable channel. So you run ads to your followers, encourage people to your sign up list. If you want to, if you're a streamer, because TikTok is a really valuable streaming platform. Again, when you go live, we've talked about this, you get triggered in the algorithm. TikTok has so much discoverability for people going live. Well, Twitch is another place you can go live. Instagram is another place you can go live. And I would be driving people to places like Twitch, where you can monetize that live stream better than any other channel, right? YouTube, again, if you have a good YouTube following, you can go live there as well. Ultimately, you should be running your strategies now. There is, no matter what I'm saying here, no matter what Trump's saying, no matter what Biden's saying, at the end of the day, there's a reality that TikTok goes away because of the geopolitical conversation. If ByteDance doesn't want to sell, I think it's about 10% owned, if I'm correct, by China, but there's 90% investors. So investors are going to not want to lose their golden goose, which is running TikTok in America. So I do think there's a big chance it gets sold off to somebody. Let's talk about Blue Sky, Twitter, and Threads. Where should you be? Like, what is important? Does it matter? Is Blue Sky as big as they say? I have my own opinions. I still think Twitter is a valuable platform. I still think it owns the culture and news. Ultimately, all these social apps have to own something. When I want to, kind of relax and be entertained, I'm on TikTok, right? When I want to learn, I go to YouTube. Or I go, I can watch some entertainment there too. I love the Outdoor Boys on YouTube. Instagram is really your brand building. Like, people are going to go there for your personal brand. They're going to go for your company brand. They're going to really be, it's the most informative of all sites. Facebook is really like, it still kind of owns friends and family. But it's older demographic, gets their news there. And at the end of the day, they all have their slight purposes. Threads and Blue Sky are struggling. Blue Sky's right now, big thing is, right, it's the left leaning Twitter. I've been on there. I follow Mark Cuban. I spend a lot of time on Blue Sky. It's not as interesting to me. It's very one-sided, and I think people would say Twitter's one-sided, but I think it's very down the middle, depending on who you follow. And it's really small. It's not super active. There's a bunch of custom channels. A lot of them are dead, but I do think Blue Sky is interesting. I'm gonna keep watching it. I wouldn't say if you're a brand you need to be there unless you think your audience is going to be there. Threads, though, on the other hand, is just a really bad platform so far. I'm not finding it interesting. It had a moment in August, I was saying, where I felt like the algorithm was dialing in on something. I still think it has a lot of work to do. It's kind of just a clunky, it's like Twitter 2009 or X 2009. But it has audience potential, right? Instagram did a great job. Meta did a great job of getting people there. I think you should be posting there. You should have an account. You should be posting there. Blue Sky, maybe not ready yet for most people. It's still pretty small, and it might go away in a year. But Threads, you should be posting. There is just free upside, and you can easily get things scheduled out there. So I think that's important. Okay, I think we've talked enough about those channels. I want to get on to election marketing. I did a couple videos a while back, but I do think it's a very big shift in how you should be running your business strategies, right? I always said the value of getting on radio or TV was sharing that clip on Instagram for the last 10 years. For most people, there's not enough eyeballs. The attention's too fickle. But if you can post on that content on YouTube, run it in ads, that's where the value of getting on radio, like having the clips, right? And what you're seeing now is pillar content is the game. And that pillar content should be on YouTube or Spotify. You can also post your long form, to Meta. People undervalue Meta. We have a couple influencers we manage, and Meta did crazy long form views, and also monetization was pretty good. It wasn't near YouTube, but it was definitely 6 figures, where YouTube might be 7 figures, right? So long form pillar content, whether you have a podcast, a show like this, where you're getting your brand out, you're talking about who what you stand for, you can entertain, going live, and then chopping up the micro content is key. But ultimately, long form is where the consumer is going to go, because I think we all understand that there's not much value in those older news shows, right? Those older talk shows, they're broken up. they're designed to capture your attention. But you can now pick and choose, hey, I want to be a fly on the wall in a long form interview. I want to be a fly on the wall for these 4 smart marketing guys talking, or girls talking, excuse me. So we're choosing the thing that has the most value to us, which is going to be long form content around our interest. And that's going to be less interrupted by ads. It's going to be more valuable to the end user. It's going to be more informative to the end user, because people ultimately want the truth. They want to learn. They want to be entertained. And they don't want to go backwards towards traditional. So traditional is going to be dead. You want to be launching. Modern media companies are going to be built on YouTube. They're going to be built on long form video on those distributions. Spotify I would put in there. And then micro content is the gateway drug for that long form pillar. So if I'm a brand or a restaurant or a small business or a solopreneur, long form like this is where I'm focusing on, and then finding someone or using AI tools like Submagic, CapCut to clip my stuff to do short form. I would make that like an hour a day if I'm in the business. That should be your priority for getting the word out, talking about your expertise. So the election really proved that model out, because you had the whole, you had the long form podcast, cultural, important podcast, and then the clipping version of that taking over the business and really turning the tide, I think, and exposing what can be controlled, manipulated by traditional media. That's not me picking right or left. That's me understanding the game, and I think you guys should be paying attention to it as well. A couple interesting things in the social media thing that are going to impact, I think, broader youth and mental health is Australia is going through their first social media ban. So kids can't get on social media, minus YouTube. I want you to remember that, until they're 16. So you can't have a YouTube account. I think you can post content on YouTube. Because again, YouTube is looked at as very much like traditional, right? You can post video. It's not that short dopamine aspect, even though Shorts is there, and there's not that back and forth as much toxicity as I think all the other social media channels get. I also think that I'm okay with IDs and making profiles more legitimized, because I do think there's an aspect to it holds people more accountable, and I think that's fine. So you can't say wild things on the internet, if you know what I mean. I think it relatively gives it some control. This is a good thing. I think ultimately there needs to be education to the youth about social media, about how to use it as a tool. I think ultimately social media is more important and more valuable for us because it empowers all of us to build our own businesses, control our own destinies. It allows, I know that people love regulation or the hate speech aspect, but at the end of the day, the more freedom I think we have in that, and more accountability we have, the ultimately it regulates itself, right? So I think this is good though. Just like California and Florida are both experimenting with no phones in school, I think that removes a lot of pressure, toxicity that can come from social media, especially when you're young and you don't understand it. So I do think these are interesting. But the big thing to me is YouTube is still in there, and I do think it set itself up, especially with YouTube Kids, for the most long-term upside of all the social media networks. I don't know if Meta, Instagram, TikTok can even really get there, but maybe they can by adopting a kid version, which is more entertaining and educational. I know that TikTok's tried a couple things, but just my 2 cents on it. The interesting thing that I think in some of these studies too about the youth, and I think real quickly we'll talk about the adult social media usage, I thought was interesting. The last 2 nuggets we're going to get into here is kids really know TikTok and YouTube. Those are the 2 brands they understand. They don't know Facebook as much, right? Instagram kind of comes in later in the game for some people, and it's still going to be, Instagram has a lot of upside as well. But, YouTube and TikTok are the 2 brands that the youth is going to know, right? If TikTok goes away, it sucks, bummer. So, and I didn't mention this, I probably meant to say Snapchat has an opportunity with TikTok going away to capture that younger audience. It's a interesting platform. It's sticking around, and it still has kind of its own audience. But Snapchat Spotlight could potentially have more value. Right now, it's a little bit I don't think anyone over 21 really wants to spend much time on Snapchat, but it has upside. There's a potential there. I think the UX has always been wonky with the personal profiles, the public profiles. It just doesn't feel as intuitive, and I think that's why it hasn't grown like the other ones. So I do think Snapchat has audience. But at the end of the day, Instagram and Snap are probably 3 and 4 on those channels. But really, YouTube and TikTok are the ones that the younger generation knows. So it's very interesting that those are the two players. Adult-wise, YouTube is king, right? Most adults spend more time on YouTube, and then Meta's right after that. And I know a lot of people don't look at YouTube as social, but it really is. It is a social media platform. We consider it that, and it has the most upside again because it is probably the channel that right now provides the most real value to that end user, right? Facebook and Instagram lost some of the value when they lost the friends graph, but I do think people ultimately are telling us that while we like to see our friends post, we'd rather have valuable, entertaining content at the end of the day. So I hope you guys learned today. Again, my intention with this podcast is not to pick a left or right. It's just to educate on how the game's going and what's working in the game, whether different political sides are doing it right or wrong, that there's interesting parts that you can learn from it and then apply it to your own businesses. At the end of the day, as a creator, I should be doing pillar content, micro content, distributing that on the short form platforms, but really you want to focus on growing your long form content if you're in this for the long haul. So that's it for Day Trading Intention. Appreciate you guys. Had 1,000 people watch my last video. That blown away by that, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around. Lots more value to come and some more interesting developments on this channel. Later.